Recognize myself for 5 minutes, and I would first like to let me start by saying that the taxpayer advocates in New York City. We'll start on a positive note. They've done a great job.
Great.
With my office, we've spoken with them. They've been very helpful. 528 constituent cases that my office has had to intervene in, which is the negative part. The fact that these American tax-paying citizens need to contact their member of Congress to get a solution or a resolution. So I would ask one question. Are your staff members still working from home? You still have that COVID telework, or are they all back in the office today?
It is a mix like all other federal agencies. I would emphasize that everyone's working. I will say that in my first few weeks at the IRS, the question that I focused on with the IRS right now is, are we getting the job done? Are we answering the phones? Are we fighting off cyber attacks? Are we processing the backlog? As long as the answer to that question is yes, then that's going to be my priority. Now, if the answer is no, then I want to go deeper into the issue and figure out what the issue is. And if the issue happens to be the telework policy is negatively impacting our ability to get the job done for the American people, then we will make a change.
Well, I would love to suggest that it's time to bring everyone back to the workplace. As you know, Republicans passed a bill to get all federal employees, half the workforce, still working from home. And I think that does have an issue to do with constituent services and making sure that these calls are answered. The fact that one congressional office in just 2 years had to intervene in over 500 cases is a problem. When we were in our hearing in Peachtree, Georgia, one of the accountants who testified said that she had been transferred 4 times and was placed on hold for 3 hours until she received assistance. I want to also move on to another major issue that I'm seeing with my constituents. Sadly, we have had over a dozen issues of check thefts, check fraud, either stimulus checks or tax refunds that have been stolen. Someone had signed the checks and deposited the money. Are you aware of this happening, and are you working, what are you doing to try to resolve that issue? Are you working closely with the U.S. Postal Service and the Department of Justice to address that?
Yeah, I know another early priority of mine, Congresswoman, is to, in particular, address issues where there's a victim. Look, it's upsetting when someone doesn't pay their taxes because that victimizes the U.S. government's financial bottom line, and we're of course concerned about that. But when there's an individual victim, whether it's identity theft, their money is stolen, they're taken advantage of, that is something that we absolutely have to prioritize. So I absolutely commit to working with the Postal Service, the Justice Department on cracking down on that type of nefarious behavior.
I appreciate that, and I would also make the argument that that should really be a priority. I see some of the other initiatives that you're focusing on, whether it's the 1099s for selling something on eBay or whatnot, or going after these small just middle class people. I think what we should do is focus on these types of things to prevent those fraudsters. But in addition to that, you said earlier that you cannot meet the demands of today, and now we're also seeing that the IRS is interjecting itself in government-populated returns, trying to, we have a whole industry of tax preparers that are hundreds of thousands of jobs, good-paying jobs, that they do this in the private sector and they do it right. I think this is a case of government coming in saying that they feel they could do something better than the people who actually do it every day. And I would say if you can't meet demands of today, and we have a lot of backlog here, why interject yourself in doing something more? Why fix something that's not broken?
Well, 2 responses to that. First, Congress asked us to study it, so we're going to study it. And the second is any product that would go forward would be an option for taxpayers. They would not have to use it if they didn't want. And for me, the question is, are we offering the right set of services based on taxpayer preference? Whether they're overseas, whether they still need to file paper, whether they want to walk into our walk-in center. I think we have an obligation to be able to provide diverse enough services to meet taxpayer preferences. So once this study is done, we'll take a look at it, we'll talk with you about it, and see if this makes sense to meet a taxpayer preference that's out there, if it's feasible and if the costs are right.
As you can imagine, for some of us, it's just looking like IRS looking to do more big government, more bureaucracy, and interjecting itself in an area where it really should just leave it to the private sector. But I would love to work with you to see how we can fix some of the issues that I brought up earlier today, because it truly is my constituents and other American citizens who are being victimized. Thank you very much.